Hi, I'm Tom with Glass Simple. Today I'm going to show you how to measure quickly an outage on a ceiling. I feel like measuring the outage on the curb is fairly straightforward, and I've actually already done a video on how to measure a full inline shower like would normally go in this situation. But let's just pretend, because it's not going in this situation, that we're going to install a curb to ceiling panel here. I've already measured the outage on the curb. That's a 30-second lower than that. Obviously that's not an outage that would be ordered. It would not be ordered a 30-second out, but I notate it because it allows things to add up mathematically. I've taken the measurement here. This is a measuring stick. I'll put what this is across the screen so you can see it. It's got a little foot there. I'm just using a level to hold the foot, and then you raise it up and measure your height. And then you kind of do the same thing here in the middle, and this is where this really shines because it's very difficult to take this dimension any other way. There's a viewfinder right here. You read that dimension. I've already written that down. If you don't have that, it's not the end of the world. You just measure off the ceiling. Say go to a number like 20, put a mark. And I just like to go to numbers that are at my eye so I don't have to bend down, and then measure up to that mark and add them together. You won't have this an accurate dimension here in the middle, but you can kind of check yourself to make sure that you're not off by a lot by bending your tape measure. I never use this as a decisive dimension, but that gets us close. So I've done that. Right now we're not worried about the outage on the wall. The laser can just be placed on the ground and you can measure off the wall. I show you in another video how I did that. That video link will be in the description. I grab my laser. I'll put what this laser is in the description as well. It has a magnet. I did a video on mounting the magnet to the wall here. You can also just set it on the windowsill. I turned the laser on. Measure up to the ceiling to the laser mark. Obviously I got to turn it toward the laser. It's 15.5 plus a 30-second. In this case, I have a few plumb marks on the wall that I'm reading off of so that I know that my tape measure is straight up and down. I'm just going to write that down. I don't chew bubble gum and walk well at the same time, so that keeps me from having to remember numbers. Now I take some masking tape. Oh, and by the way, I like to use a Fat Max tape measure, and it has to do with the fact that the tape comes straight out of that hole. There's something odd in this tape measure. The tape measure, if you were to set it flat on the curb, it does not come straight out, it causes it to bind up. So for this particular function, I like to use a Fat Max. Everything else, mostly, I use the standard, well, this tape measure here, Power Lock, Stanley Power Lock. I use 2 pieces of tape to tape that. That way it doesn't move. I put a plumb line here already. So I use the same laser. I'll just hit that function now. You can see right there it creates a plumb mark or line off the top and bottom of the laser. So then I know that my tape measure is perfectly straight up and down, and I want to hold the tape measure as close to the surface as possible. And here it's reading 15.5 plus a 64th. Because I touched the laser, I'm going to check this. And really, they're about the same. So that's level. Of course, you also need to take a straight edge and stick it on the ceiling to make sure you don't have any humps. I've already done that. I do not have a hump. Same thing down here. There's no hump there. If you have an open side here, it's not too crucial, but I do the same thing there. I'm going to be putting a video on how to float a level, or that's what I call it anyhow. So in other words, if your level is not as long as the surface is that you're testing, I'm going to show you how to measure that, or how to use a level and get an accurate, determination as to whether or not you have a hump on the wall. Hope you guys found this useful today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to catch you on the next one.